Hello, Alan.
Hello, Miss Letty.
So here we are again to read a lovely story called The Oval Portrait, and it's by Edgar Allan Poe. He's a very famous American author. He's one of the most popular ones from the past. So, Alan, can you see the picture on your screen?
I can indeed, yes.
Would you like to describe it to me?
Well, it dates way back, maybe 100 years or so, according to the dress she's wearing. She's wearing a nice fur collar or lined collar on the inside, and she looks quite prim, and
Right.
looks as though she's posing for the photograph.
Right. So, from the way she's dressed, we suppose it's over 100 years ago
I would think so,
because of
yes.
her hairstyle, her
Yeah.
style of dress, and it's a portrait, it's a painting, right? So that just gives us an idea of what the story is going to be about.
Yeah.
So off you go, Alan. It's your turn.
We saw the dark shape of the roof above the forest. It was not far away, but travelling was difficult in that wild part of the mountains. We did not arrive until night was falling. It was a sad and strangely beautiful house, many hundreds of years old. Pedro, my servant, broke in through a small door at the back and carried me carefully inside. I was so badly hurt that I would die if we stayed out all night. People were living here until a very short time ago, Pedro said. They left in a hurry. He carried me through several tall, richly decorated rooms to a smaller room in a corner of the great house. He helped me to lie down on the bed. There were a lot of fine modern pictures in the room. I looked at them for a while in the dying light. They were everywhere on the walls all round me.
So, like at any beginning of the story, we're not sure what is happening yet. So they have took, I think, refuge in this house. And we imagine that she's a noble person because she has a servant who is carrying her because she was badly hurt. And it was nighttime, so they had to take refuge. So there is a person telling the story, and we are listening to what she has to say. They were everywhere on the walls, all around me. After dark, I could not sleep because of the pain. Also, I was so weak now that I was afraid that I was dying. So I asked Pedro to light the lamp beside the bed. I began to look at the pictures on the wall, and as I did so, I read a small book. I found this book on the bed next to me. It described all the pictures in the room, one by one, and told their story. I looked and read for a long time, and the hours passed quickly. Midnight came and went. My eyes became more and more tired, and soon I found it hard to read the words on the page. So I reached out. This was painful and difficult, and moved the lamp closer. Now the lamp's light fell in a different part of the room, a part that was deep in a deep shadow until then. I saw more pictures, and among them there was a portrait of a young woman. As soon as I saw it, I closed my eyes.
Keeping my eyes closed, I tried to understand why. Why did I suddenly close my eyes like that? Then I realized I did it to give myself time. I needed time to think. Was I sure that I really saw what I thought I saw? Was I dreaming? No, I was suddenly very awake. I waited until I was calm again. Then I opened my eyes and looked a second time. No, there was no mistake. My eyes were seeing what they saw the first time, only seconds before. The picture, as I said, was a portrait. It was oval in shape and showed the head and shoulders of a young woman. It was the finest and the most beautiful painting that I have ever seen. And I know I never ever saw a woman as beautiful as her. But it was not her beauty that shook me. No, so suddenly from my half sleep. And it was not the beauty of the painter's work that excited me in such a strange way.
Right. Alan, who do you think is narrating this story? A man or a woman?
I think it's a man, but I am perhaps a bit biased.
You think it's a man? Why?
I know. He's really praising the looks of this woman in the portrait. It's just quite common that men do that.
Right. So, from the description he's giving of the portrait, we presume that it's a man because he was saying how beautiful she is, no?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So we're presuming it's a man who has hurt himself and he's needed help from his servant. I stayed for perhaps an hour, half sitting, half lying, never taking my eyes off the portrait. Then at last I understood. At last I realized what the true secret of the picture was, and I fell back in the bed again. It was the way she was looking at me. Her eyes, that beautiful smile, that way she looked at me. She was so real. It was almost impossible to believe that she was just paint, that she was not alive. The first time I looked at the portrait, I simply could not believe what my eyes were seeing. But now I felt a very different feeling growing inside me. The more I looked into those eyes, the more I looked at that beautiful smile, the more I was afraid. It was a strange, terrible fear that I could not understand. It was a fear mixed with horror. I moved the lamp back to where it was before, the portrait now hidden in the darkness again. Quickly, I looked through the book until I found the story of the oval portrait. I read these words. So this was the portrait he was looking at and the woman he could see in the portrait.
She was a beautiful young flower and always so happy. Yes, she was happy until that evil day when she saw and loved the painter of her portrait. They were married, but sadly he already had a wife. His work.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
They were married, but sadly he already had a wife. His work. His painting was more important to him than anything in the world. Before, she was all light and smiles. She loved everything in the world. Now she loved all things but one, her husband's work. His painting was her only enemy, and she began to hate the painting that kept her husband away from her. And so it was a terrible thing when he told her that he wanted to paint his young wife's portrait. For weeks he sat in the tall, dark room while he worked. He was a silent man, always working, always lost in his wild, secret dreams. She sat still, always smiling, never moving, while he painted her hour after hour, day after day.
Right.
So
here it said she sat still, which means she didn't move. So if you sit still or you are still, you're not moving at all. So she felt like second best because he put his work first. So she made me jealous, but she wasn't happy. He did not see that she was growing weaker with every day. He never noticed that she was not healthy anymore or not happy anymore. The change was happening in front of his eyes, but he did not see it. But she went on smiling. She never stopped smiling because she saw that her husband, who was now very famous, enjoyed his work so much. He worked day and night painting the portrait of the woman he loved. And as he painted, the woman who loved him grew slowly weaker and sadder. Several people saw the half-finished picture. They told the painter how wonderful it was, speaking softly as he worked. They said the portrait showed how much he loved his beautiful wife. Silently, she sat in front of her husband and his visitors, hearing and seeing nothing now. So she was slowly dying because she was so sad and upset, no? There we are. Now it's you.
The work was coming near an end. He did not welcome visitors in the room anymore. A terrible fire was burning inside him now. He was wild, almost mad with his work. His eyes almost never left the painting now, even to look at his wife's face. Her face was as white as snow. The painter did not see that the colours he was painting were no longer there in her real face. Many more weeks passed until one day in the middle of winter, he finished the portrait. He touched the last paint onto her lips. He put the last thin line of colour on an eye. Then he stood back and looked at the finished work. As he looked, he began to shake. All colours left his face. With his eyes on the portrait, he cried out to the world, "This woman is not made of paint, she is alive." Then he turned suddenly to look at the woman he loved so much. She was dead.
So he neglected his wife. So here we see him. Can you see his face?
Yes.
He's crazy there. You can see how obsessed he is with the painting.
Yes.
So could we ever say to you, Allan, you were married to your profession by any chance?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Most definitely. That's why I worked on so long. I loved it so much, I worked an extra 5 years.
But did you put it in front of everything? Was it the most important
There
in your
were
life?
times when yes, I would have liked to have had more time socially or with the family, but I opted to work, and so I was guilty of that really. But then the money was so tempting, you know. As you said, the money is the root of all evil.
Right. So is it true there's an expression, are you married to your profession? Can you
Yes,
say it like that? No? So some people become obsessed with their work and
yes.
they're workaholics and they forget about the other people in their real life, no?
Yes, I said this to a person the other day. I said, you will never get married. And she said, well, why not? I said, because you're married to your work. Well, what do you mean? As well, that's all you. That is your life, your work, and what you do. I won't tell you who or what she did, but she was definitely married to her work. Nothing else mattered. Nothing else
Mhm.
mattered. Just her work.
I know this feeling because I have a friend and he's studying his PhD and he's always in front of his computer, but it's
Ah,
because he
yes.
needs to be. And I've even called his computer now his girlfriend.
Yeah, very good. A very good description. Yeah.
So, because sometimes we become workaholics or we are always in front of the computer.
Yes.
Well, Alan, what did you think of the story?
Well, it's quite good. The second one, you mean? The,
Yes,
the,
this
the
one now.
double portrait. Yes,
Yes,
it was it was very good. Yes, rather sad, I suppose, in a way. But
yes.
it is.
It was short and sweet, as we
Yeah,
would say, no?
yeah.
But it was interesting because we didn't know how it was going to
No, we
finish.
didn't. No.
Right. So, Alan, thank you for joining me again for
You're,
reading.
you're very
Uh,
welcome.
I hope our viewers enjoy the way we read the story and it motivates them to read. And if it does, they should click on the like and maybe we get some more subscribers. We're doing quite well for our little channel that we do between us. So let's see if some more people get motivated. They can
Sure.
read to themselves. They can switch off our voices, listen to our voices. There are many ways to do it. So, toodaloo, Alan. Until next
Okay,
time.
bye bye, Mr. C. Until next time.